Good evening. My name is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, and I wanted to come to present to you tonight a topic that is a very difficult subject to talk about and discuss, but I know that there are many of you out there who are considering the thought of getting a divorce. And I want to be here this evening to give you some guidance and some education. So first, a few disclaimers. I am not here to encourage anyone to get a divorce. It is one of the most painful things that you will do in your entire life. But there are many of you who are struggling with this question. I have talked with some of you, I have met with some of you who are dealing with the question, should I get a divorce? And I want to talk to you tonight about that topic for those of you who are considering, who are living in a very painful situation this evening as we speak. You are suffering and you are hurting, and this marriage is long overdue to end. And I would ask the question, what is worse? Is it worse to continue in this relationship, or is it worse to go through a divorce? And that is a question, my friend, that only you can answer. I can't tell you that. No one else can tell you that. And if they try to tell you that, please know that this is solely your question and your answer that no one else is going to give to you, only you. So I want to educate you a little bit tonight and tell you about divorce. Who am I? My name is Kathy Beatty. I'm with Divorce Support Anonymous. For the past 16 years, I have been involved with divorce in one way or another. I lead support groups. I do individual divorce coaching. I'm also a domestic mediator. So through these past 16 years, I have worked with literally hundreds of individuals who are going through the process of divorce, some much more painful than others. And so as you are considering this topic, I'd like to give you some information to help guide you. One resource that I provide along with my workbooks and books is this free download, Seeing Your Attorney for the First Time, available upon request. I will send this over to you. I can't send it through Messenger, but I can send it through email. If you send me your email, I do not keep your email. I do not have a database. I simply send to you this workbook. And I'll refer to it somewhat tonight as well. Hello, Michael. I do have some folks joining us live, and so I appreciate you being here. So I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes on this topic. But after this topic, we are going to go into a private Zoom meeting in which you can ask myself and an attorney who is joining me, Peter Letzman, who is an attorney and a mediator, and you can ask specific, private, individual questions. So we will post that link shortly, and we will leave this StreamYard platform. We will go into a Zoom meeting where it will be a private conversation to answer your question. And that link has just been posted. Thank you very much, Attorney Peter Letzman. So when this is finished, you can go into this private meeting and get those individual questions answered. So let's begin speaking of our topic tonight, should I get a divorce? I want to begin with the different processes of divorce. And that's going to be helpful to you so you know, do you have to go fight it out in court? No, you do not. There are different methods and ways in which you can get the divorce that are much less painful as going into the court system. One of those ways is to do it yourself. It is possible. The forms are available online here in Michigan, and I'm sure wherever you are, there are similar forms that are online that you would be able to secure, fill out, and go file for divorce, work out all of the agreement, and then you could also create your own judgment of divorce and submit that to the court. Now, it is possible, and I made it sound really, really easy. It's not that easy because there are a lot of different factors in divorce. There are the emotions, there are the pain, there is the pain. So handling all of that, rarely does it happen that people are successful in a do-it-yourself divorce. It is an option. And there are parts of it that you can do yourself as well. You can file for divorce on your own without an attorney. So do it yourself is an option, but it's probably not the best option. And if you were to do a do-it-yourself divorce, then I would highly recommend that you go to an attorney to look over these documents before you submit them to the court, because once the court receives them, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to change them. So do it yourself is an option, but a word of caution. It needs to be done very, very carefully. The next is mediation, which is the most that I'm familiar with, being a domestic mediator myself. Mediation is when you and your spouse come together and sit with a neutral party, and you can do this with attorneys or without attorneys. And you work out all of the details of the divorce. You work out the division of assets, you work out the debts, you work out the parenting time, the parenting schedule. And the neutral party is there to guide you, not to advise you, but to guide you in all of the issues that are on the table that need to be discussed. So mediation is an option for you. And again, if you're going to mediate without attorneys, you can do that. You don't have to have attorneys with you. But it's recommended from me that you take those documents, which you have agreed to, and take them to an attorney and see what their thoughts are on that. So they may see issues that you don't see, like penalties, like tax implications. So there are so many things there. But you can do a mediation without attorneys, or you can do it with attorneys, whichever way that you would like to proceed. And then that double check of getting an attorney to review all of those documents. We come up with an agreement is what it is. And it is a written document with your signatures on it. It is legally binding. And you can take that and put it with a judgment of divorce, submit it to the court, and your divorce would be complete. So that's another option for you to look at. Collaborative divorce is another option. This is where you have a whole team. You have an accountant, your financial person, you have two attorneys, you have maybe a child psychologist there, maybe you have a divorce coach there. So you have a whole team that's working together to do this. So let me speak to you about collaborative divorce. From the people that I have talked with, I'm not overly impressed with collaborative divorce because every one of those professionals that I just listed have to be paid. It is extremely expensive to do that. And so coming to this conclusion can be extremely costly. For some people, it does work. Another warning that I'd like to state is that if you are working on a collaborative and you put all this work into it and you do not come to an agreement and settle your divorce, you have to start over with another attorney. So it's a little tricky. And I know that the attorneys who do collaborative divorce would probably argue me on that point. So let me just say that this is my opinion. It might work for you. But I don't know that you really need, in some situations, you need a forensic accountant. You need someone who's going to do some more analysis for you. And you can do that on your own, and you can do that in mediation as well. So the last one is the court system. If neither of you can agree on anything, you're going to go and stand before the courts, and you're going to have an attorney with you. And the judge is going to look over your life and say, here's how the rest of your life is going to go. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want anyone else making decisions on how my life is going to go. So the courts is really to be avoided, to not venture into unless you really have to. Now, what happens sometimes in mediation is we will get a partial agreement. So we will, for example, we've got the assets figured out, the debts figured out, the division of the retirement all figured out, everything figured out, but we cannot agree on the co-parenting. And so what can happen is all of those things that we have completed, that's a done deal. Those are decided. So that's put into an agreement, which again is a legally binding document that both of you have signed. That's off the table. The courts don't have to decide that, but you could take the co-parenting issue to the courts and they would decide that and only that. So those are some of the processes I want you to be familiar with. I want you to know that there are options for you instead of fighting it out in court and having attorney fees go through the roof. So going to court here in Michigan, and I'm based in Michigan, so that's really the only my only reference point. I don't know what the cost is in other countries, but you can plan, or other countries, well, other countries too, but other states. You can plan on $10,000 to $15,000 extra just for going to the court, into the courts. And that's not talking about all of your information and all of your time that you've already spent with your attorney and maybe the financial people and everyone else. So I did have a gentleman in my group, in one of my support groups, who said, and I don't want to say this to scare you, but I want you to know what can happen if you don't cooperate and get things resolved or give a good faith effort to get things resolved. One gentleman in my group said, my legal fees are $129,000 and we're not done yet. And that story has stuck with me. This was many, many years ago, because it hurt me for him and for her, because that's a lot of money. And so for them to spend all that time, energy, and pain and money into the situation that could be resolved in other ways, it just hurts. So also just some information on the process. I'm not going to go into depth with anything tonight because we are limited. I want to go about 30 minutes and I'm already 13 minutes in, so I better get busy. So I want to begin with the question, should I get a divorce? I want to begin discussing, first of all, is there abuse? Do you come from an abusive relationship? And I have worked with many women and several men who come from abusive relationship. So I want to talk a little bit about abuse because that really shades everything differently. Everything. So first of all, there are different types of abuse. There is what we probably think of first is physical abuse. That's evident, right? Pushing, shoving, hitting, physical abuse to the children. That's only one form of abuse that can happen. There's also emotional abuse, intimidation, manipulation, gaslighting, demeaning, manipulative actions within the relationship that take away your dignity, that take away your equality in the marriage. So that is an abuse as well. And so we want to be aware of that. It's not just the physical, it is the emotional. And oh, how many, many people I've worked with who have suffered through emotional abuse for years and years and years. And they were afraid to take the step to get the help they needed and to get the divorce. Once they did, as difficult as it was, they were able to move forward with their life. There's another type of abuse, and that's spiritual abuse. That is the situation where they are using the church, religion, the Bible, to intimidate you, to silence you, to manipulate you, control you, to minimize you. And this may not just be your spouse. This may be the church, religion, other people who are threatening you and telling you all types of things about how awful divorce is, and you just better never dare even think about taking that step. And I want to clear some of that up in just a little bit about the spiritual abuse and God's language on that. But first, I want to finish covering the 4 types of abuse that I'm talking about tonight. So I've already explained the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and then there's the financial abuse as well, withholding of funds, or having a spouse that gambles away your retirement, or maybe not sharing finances with you, or giving you access to the money, to the marital money. That's a form of abuse. So, is any of this happening to you? Is any of this happening to you? And if it is it a consideration that if things can't change, if things won't change, is divorce an option for you? And that, again, is totally your decision and no one else's. No one else's. It is a very heart-wrenching, difficult decision, but sometimes it is necessary. And I know we hate the thought of it, and trust me, I hate seeing every person that I work with going through this trauma and this process. But on the other side, for many of them, is their sanity and their health and their opportunity to be free and live as an individual, and not someone who is sheltered or coerced or manipulated or demeaned. We were never meant to be torn down by another person, especially our spouse. It was never meant to be that way. So if you are finding yourself in an abusive situation, I want to give you just, first of all, domestic violence hotline number. It's available. All you have to do is Google it and you will find it if that is something that is necessary for you, if you are facing some type of abuse. And it doesn't always have to be physical. No, they probably won't take the financial and the spiritual, but they may guide you on where to go for that, if that is what you are dealing with. So one of the next decisions that we have to look at as we consider, should I get a divorce, is there any hope for this marriage? Is there any hope? Have you tried counseling? Have you tried to tell your partner that we are in real trouble here and we need help? And if we don't get help, we're not going to make it. So have you been working on this? Have you tried counseling? Is he or she open to counseling? I know I've had a couple of counselors, and my own marriage counselor, when we were trying to save the marriage 23 years ago, said, you're here 10 years too late. And for many of you, it's run its course. But for some, not. If 2 willing parties are willing to work together, the marriage could maybe be saved. I know I also do stay married mediation. And we've had some couples who stayed together because they had some real issues to work out and counseling for them just didn't work. So it's helpful to look at the question, can this marriage be saved? Is there any hope for this marriage? If there is an unwillingness on the other side, the other partner, he or she, they won't go to counseling. They won't recognize things are broken. They like things the way they are because it serves them well, but it hurts you. And they are not going to change. They are not going to go to counseling. They're not going to care about what you're feeling, how you were hurting, then maybe the marriage can't be saved. Maybe this marriage is so dead that someone needs to have the honesty to bury it. And I know that's really difficult to hear for many of you. Has that bond been broken? Has there been an affair? Have there been numerous affairs? Have there been a lot of gambling, a lot of activity going on, pornography for one? That is something that has broken the bond of marriage. So for many of you, you feel very devoted to marriage. And it's like anything but divorce, anything but divorce. And maybe you think, well, God hates divorce. Well, that's in Malachi, chapter 2, verse 16. If you study that verse carefully, instead of just throwing it out there as some people and some churches do, and some pastors do, if you look at that carefully, that verse is actually talking to men who cover themselves with violence and are hurting the woman that they are supposed to treasure. Now, this is going to go either way. If you're a woman who is violent toward your spouse, God hates a garment that's covered with violence. He hates divorce. He hates people treating people poorly, and especially when he has designed the marriage to be a place of safety and security and growth and unity. So if that verse is the one that is holding you back, and I know there are other verses where Jesus spoke about it and Paul spoke about it also, but we need to do a deeper dive on those verses to understand what was meant in that context and in that culture, and also to understand that God values individuals more than he does a covenant. He loves you more than he loves that covenant in your marriage. And that's really why we need to learn the character of God more deeply, other than the commands of God hates divorce. No, there's more to it than that I can't get into in depth here today. But it's just the truth that we need to be aware of. If that's the only reason you're living in misery, but you're saying, well, nope, I can't do that because God hates divorce. God doesn't hate all divorce. God loves people and those who are being abused, those who are being hurt by their marriage. God cares much more for you than he does that covenant of marriage. So let's talk about some of the issues that we want to talk about. Is there abuse? We covered that. Many of us are really concerned with the health and well-being of the children. Divorce is tough on kids. I'm not going to state any differently because it is. It's very difficult on kids. There are support programs and there are therapists, counselors, pastors, people who can help your children get through this. The real question is, what are the children seeing in the home now? Are they seeing healthy relationships? Or are they seeing yelling and fighting and screaming and hiding and a lot of secrets? And yeah, is that what we want our children to believe that a healthy relationship and marriage and family is? No. So looking at the health and well-being of the children is something certainly to consider, to look at. But look at the whole view. What are the children seeing in the home? And is that healthy? And is it good for their well-being? Or would they be healthier with one of the parents out of the house? Or having limited time with one or the other parents? So that's a whole topic that, again, I don't have time to get into. But I would recommend that you go to my YouTube channel there is a series of videos called How Not to Screw Up Your Kids Going Through Divorce. And that is going to help you. I interviewed several child experts, and they gave some fabulous information. Co-parenting is going to need to be worked out. That's covered in this book, as are all of these topics. How do you co-parent together? And that is going to mean developing a schedule. And that's going to mean that one parent or the other is going to be paying some child support. So again, too much to get into, but it is an issue. And it is an issue that people look at deciding on getting a divorce. And so again, is it possible to have two healthy households? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. It's something to consider. Next is the finances. So generally speaking, what do you do with all the finances and the debts and the house and all of that information? Generally, the assets are going to be split 50-50. Again, I'm coming from Michigan. That's the general consensus of the court. So as you go to mediation or you work all of this out, you're going to have pretty much an even split one way or another. Now, one individual may say, just don't touch my retirement. You can have more equity of the home. That's fine. You can do that in the negotiation of the divorce. But generally, we're going to look at a 50-50 split. We're going to, and once again, in this workbook, you're going to list all of your assets, all of your debts, your retirement. It's all going to be divided. And that's how the courts are going to look at it. So it's good to get that mindset of, okay, how do I want this division to take place? And that doesn't mean that you can't ask for a little more. But generally speaking, that's where we're going to look. The house is always a big topic. Who's going to keep the house? Who would keep the house? If there are children involved, minor children involved, typically one of the parents would keep the home. Not always. Sometimes they sell and split the proceeds. You can do that as well. But the house is a huge part of the assets. So a decision is going to need to be made who gets the house if you do go through a divorce. Of course, extended family, there's going to be family that disappear on you, even though they've been your aunt and uncle for 20 years. They're no longer family. So this is going to affect everything around you. Status also, we're going to, especially for women, research shows that statistics show that women typically are left less financially solid and stable because of a divorce. But that can be compensated some through spousal support, depending on how many years you're married. The status also, when you look at your work, it is going to affect your work life. Research shows it takes 3 to 5 years to recover fully from a divorce. And it costs, the number is averages $8,300 that it costs the employer. So that's a really good reason to, if you're going through a divorce, that you join a support group, that you get the support you need to increase the speed of your recovery and of your getting through the trauma of divorce. So lots of information, but who has the authority to make this decision? Only you. Only you. If you look at your marriage honestly, can it get the help it needs to survive? Or is it more honest that we look at this marriage and say, this marriage is over, it has been over. Now, how do we proceed? Do we stay together with the understanding that we're here more like business partners and raising the kids? Or for financial reasons, we're going to stay together in the home? That's your call. That's your decision. But you are the only one who has this authority. If you talk to counselors or you talk to pastors or someone who says, no, you need to stay in this marriage, even though you know it's dead and gone, and you need for your survival to get out of it, then maybe it is time. Maybe it is time to make the step forward and get the help and support that you need. Help and resources are available. I have several books and workbooks, and certainly this book is free upon request. I send you the download. You can print it. You will have it. It's going to walk you through what to do. Seeing your attorney for the first time, preparation and mediation guide. So it's going to help you and get you going there. The violence hotline, again, I want to put that out there and just let you know you are not alone as you go through this. And I know many of you in many states and many countries are listening to this, maybe desperately. Maybe desperately you are listening to this because you know that you need help and things cannot continue the way they're going. And you are afraid for multitudes of reasons. Multitudes of reasons. You're afraid financially. You're afraid emotionally. You're afraid of doing this on your own. Well, I've worked with hundreds of people who have done it very successfully. And if you're in a situation where your marriage is not working, or the bond has been broken by pornography, by affairs, by alcohol, there are many ways in which you can be abandoned in a marriage, and it doesn't always mean when they walk out the door. You can be abandoned emotionally. You can be abandoned financially. You can be abandoned sexually by an affair or pornography. There are many ways in which you can be abandoned. I don't want you to think that you don't have choices. You have choices. You have the authority to make this decision, and there's help and resources available. So in our comments there, you're going to see a Zoom link, which you could simply press on that Zoom link and join us in that Zoom meeting. This is a private meeting. And when you get in, you can change your name before you get there, just your first name, or change it completely. I don't care. But I want you to have the information that you need to make the wise decision that you need to make. So the Zoom meeting has been listed in the comments. All you need to do is click on that, jump over to that Zoom room, and we will answer, myself and attorney Peter Letzman will answer the questions that are individual that you may have. Thank you for your time this evening, and I hope that's been of help. Please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to assist you. I'm at divorcesupportanonymous.com. I have a Facebook page, a private group, a website. I'm on LinkedIn. So I'm not difficult to find. With that, I wish you the absolute best, a beautiful future. And let me know how I could be of help. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma of divorce. Good evening.